What if the life you're living isn't truly yours? Carl Jung believed our masks, hidden shadows, and forgotten truths shape every choice we make. In just 17 minutes, discover the shocking guide to understanding yourself, unmask illusions, confront your shadow, and begin the journey toward wholeness today. Chapter 1: The Masks We Wear. We all wear masks, not the kind you put on during a costume party, but invisible ones that slip over our faces every day. At work, you might wear the mask of the diligent professional. At home, perhaps the mask of the caring parent or obedient child. Online, maybe the mask of someone who always has their life together. These masks are not lies, they are survival tools. They help us fit in, protect us from judgment, and allow us to move through the world without constantly exposing our raw selves. Carl Jung called this mask the persona. It is the version of ourselves we present to society, carefully shaped by expectations, culture, and the roles we are asked to play. The persona is useful. Without it, we would struggle to navigate the complexity of human relationships. Imagine walking into a meeting and blurting out every thought in your head or showing every insecurity to strangers. The persona shields us from chaos. But here's the catch: the mask can become too tight. When we forget that it is only a mask, we start believing it is who we truly are. We confuse the performance with the person, and that's when life begins to feel hollow. You might have experienced this yourself, smiling at a party when you feel empty inside, or pretending to be confident while your stomach churns with doubt. The mask works, but it also hides. Think about social media. It is the modern stage for the persona. We curate photos, polish captions, and filter reality until it shines. Yet behind the screen, many feel lonely, anxious, or disconnected. The persona thrives in this environment, but the true self waits quietly in the shadows, wondering if it will ever be seen. Jung warned us about this danger. He believed that while the persona is necessary, it must never replace the authentic self. To live only through masks is to live half a life. The more we cling to them, the more we lose touch with the deeper currents of our being. The psychologist Rollo May once said, "The opposite of courage in our society is not cowardice, it is conformity." That line cuts deep. Conformity is the mask we wear to avoid standing out, to avoid risk, to avoid being judged. But in conforming too much, we risk losing ourselves entirely. So, how do we recognize our masks? Start by noticing when you feel drained after social interactions. Often, exhaustion comes not from the conversation itself, but from the effort of holding up the mask. Notice when your words feel rehearsed, when your laughter feels forced, when your smile feels heavy. These are signs that the persona is running the show. The journey begins with awareness. You don't need to rip off the mask immediately. That would be reckless. Instead, gently acknowledge it. Ask yourself, who am I when no one is watching? Who am I when I stop performing? These questions open the door to the authentic self. But here's the paradox. You cannot live without masks. Society demands them. We need roles to function: teacher, student, parent, leader, friend. The trick is balance. Wear the mask when necessary, but remember to take it off when you're alone or with those who love you unconditionally. The mask should be a tool, not a prison. Imagine a person who has worn the mask of success for years. They have the job, the house, the car. Everyone admires them. Yet inside, they feel empty. Why? Because the mask has become their identity. They no longer know who they are without it. This is the danger Jung wanted us to see. And here's where the story gets interesting. Once you realize the mask is not the whole truth, you begin to sense something stirring underneath. A deeper self, waiting to be acknowledged. That self is messy, vulnerable, and unpredictable, but it is real. And reality, even when imperfect, is far more fulfilling than endless performance. This chapter is only the beginning of the journey. We start with masks because they are the most visible. They are easy to spot once you know what to look for. But beneath the mask lies something darker, something harder to face. Jung called it the shadow. And that is where the real challenge begins. Before we move forward, pause for a moment. Think about the masks you wear. Think about the roles you play. Are they serving you or are they suffocating you? The answer might surprise you. If you're finding this exploration meaningful, make sure to subscribe to the channel. That way you won't miss the next step in this journey, the moment when we turn from masks to shadows and confront the parts of ourselves we've tried to bury. Chapter 2, Shadows in the Mirror. Step into a quiet room and imagine standing before a mirror. At first, you see yourself, the familiar face, the features you know so well. But then, something shifts. The reflection darkens, and behind your eyes, another presence stares back. This is not a stranger. It is your shadow. The shadow is the part of us we rarely acknowledge. It is the collection of traits, impulses, and emotions we push away because they feel unacceptable. Anger, jealousy, greed, fear, shame, all of these live in the shadow. We bury them deep, hoping they will disappear. But they don't. They wait. Think about the times you felt sudden irritation at someone's success, or envy when a friend achieves something you wanted. These feelings don't vanish just because we ignore them. Instead, they slip into the shadow where they grow stronger. The more we deny them, the more power they gain. The shadow is not only about negative emotions, it also contains hidden talents and desires we've suppressed. Maybe you were told as a child that being too bold was rude, so you silenced your confidence. Maybe you were discouraged from being creative, so you buried your imagination. These parts of you also live in the shadow, waiting to be reclaimed. Facing the shadow is uncomfortable. It means admitting that we are not as perfect as we pretend to be. It means seeing the parts of ourselves we would rather keep hidden. But here lies the paradox. The very things we hide are the ones we must confront if we want to grow. Imagine walking through a forest at night. Every sound feels threatening, every shadow seems alive. You want to run, but the only way forward is through. This is what shadow work feels like. It is frightening, but it is also necessary. The forest is not the enemy, it is the path. When we deny the shadow, it leaks into our lives in subtle ways. We project it onto others, blaming them for the very traits we refuse to see in ourselves. The person who annoys you might simply reflect something you dislike about yourself. The rival you resent might embody the ambition you've suppressed. Projection is the shadow's favorite disguise. Think about relationships. How often do conflicts arise not because of what the other person did, but because of what they triggered inside you? The shadow reacts, and suddenly you are angry, defensive, or withdrawn. Without awareness, you believe the problem is outside. With awareness, you realize the shadow is speaking. The shadow can also appear in dreams. Strange figures, dark landscapes, unsettling encounters. These are often symbols of the parts of ourselves we avoid. Dreams remind us that the shadow is alive, even when we try to silence it. But here's the truth. The shadow is not the enemy. It is a teacher. It shows us what we need to heal, what we need to accept, and what we need to integrate. Without it, we remain incomplete. To reject the shadow is to reject half of ourselves. Facing the shadow begins with honesty. Notice the emotions you resist. Pay attention to the traits in others that irritate you. Ask yourself, what part of me does this reflect? The answer may be uncomfortable, but it is the doorway to growth. The process is not about eliminating the shadow. You cannot erase it. Instead, it is about integration. When you accept your anger, it becomes energy for change. When you embrace your envy, it becomes motivation. When you acknowledge your fear, it becomes caution that protects you. The shadow transforms when it is seen. Picture yourself standing before that mirror again. This time, instead of recoiling from the shadow, you reach out. You touch the reflection, and it touches back. The fear lessens. The darkness softens. You realize the shadow is not a monster. It is a part of you that longs to be understood. Integration does not happen overnight. It is a lifelong process. Each time you face discomfort, each time you admit a hidden truth, you take a step closer to wholeness. The shadow becomes less frightening, less controlling. It becomes a companion on your journey. The reward of shadow work is freedom. No longer do you need to pretend. No longer do you need to hide. You can live with authenticity, knowing that both your light and your darkness have a place. This is the beginning of true self-acceptance. The shadow is the mirror we avoid, but it is also the mirror we need. Without it, we remain trapped in masks and illusions. With it, we begin to see ourselves clearly. And once we see ourselves clearly, we can finally begin the dance of wholeness. Chapter 3: The Dance of Wholeness. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast field at dawn. The night has passed, the forest of shadows lies behind you, and the masks you once wore are scattered on the ground. Ahead stretches open space, filled with light and possibility. This is the beginning of wholeness. Wholeness is not perfection. It is not about erasing flaws or becoming flawless. Wholeness is about integration, bringing together the parts of yourself that you once denied, ignored, or hid. It is about allowing both the light and the dark to coexist, not as enemies, but as partners in the dance of life. Think about the journey so far. First came the masks, the personas we wear to survive in society. Then came the shadows, the hidden truths we bury deep inside. Now the task is to unite them. To step into wholeness means to accept that you are both the mask and the shadow, both the polished surface and the raw depth. This dance begins with awareness. You start noticing how your persona and shadow interact. Perhaps your mask of confidence hides a shadow of insecurity. Perhaps your mask of kindness covers a shadow of resentment. When you see these connections, you begin to understand yourself more fully. Awareness is the first step toward integration. Integration is not easy. It requires courage to admit that you are complex, that you contain contradictions. You may feel torn between different parts of yourself. One part wants to succeed, another fears failure. One part wants to love freely, another fears rejection. These conflicts are natural. They are not signs of weakness. They are signs of humanity. The dance of wholeness is about learning to move with these contradictions instead of fighting them. Imagine a dancer who stumbles but keeps moving, turning the stumble into part of the performance. That is what integration looks like. You don't eliminate the shadow or discard the mask. You weave them into the rhythm of your life. Consider how this plays out in daily life. At work, you may wear the mask of professionalism, but you also acknowledge the shadow of doubt that whispers in your mind. Instead of denying the doubt, you listen to it, using it as a reminder to prepare more carefully. In relationships, you may wear the mask of patience, but you also recognize the shadow of frustration. Instead of suppressing it, you express it honestly, turning conflict into deeper understanding. Wholeness is not about choosing one side over the other. It is about holding both sides at once. You are strong and vulnerable, kind and selfish, confident and insecure. To be whole is to embrace this paradox. The journey toward wholeness often feels like a spiral. You revisit old masks, confront familiar shadows, and each time you return, you see them differently. The spiral moves upward, each turn bringing you closer to integration. You never finish the dance, but you grow more graceful with each step. Wholeness also means connection. When you accept yourself fully, you connect more deeply with others. You no longer need to hide behind masks or project your shadow onto them. You meet them as they are, and you allow them to meet you as you are. This creates relationships built on authenticity, not performance. Think about the freedom this brings. No longer do you need to pretend to be someone else. No longer do you need to fear the parts of yourself you once buried. You can live openly, knowing that your light and your darkness both have value. This freedom is the gift of wholeness. The dance of wholeness is also creative. When you integrate your shadow, you unlock hidden energy. Anger becomes passion, envy becomes ambition, fear becomes wisdom. These transformed energies fuel creativity, giving you the power to build, to express, to imagine. Wholeness is not just healing, it is creation. Picture yourself dancing in that open field. Each step is guided by both light and shadow. The masks you once wore are no longer burdens. They are costumes you can choose when needed. The shadows you once feared are no longer monsters. They are partners moving beside you. Together, they form the rhythm of your life. This dance is endless. There will always be new masks, new shadows, new contradictions. But once you learn the rhythm, you no longer fear them. You welcome them, knowing they are part of the whole. Wholeness is not a destination. It is a way of living. It is the choice to embrace complexity, to honor both the visible and the hidden, to move with the dance instead of resisting it. It is the courage to be fully yourself, without apology. As the sun rises higher over the field, you realize that the dance of wholeness is not just about you. It is about life itself. Every person carries masks and shadows. Every person struggles with contradictions. When you embrace your own wholeness, you inspire others to do the same. The dance becomes collective, a shared rhythm that connects us all. And so, the journey that began with masks and shadows leads here to the dance of wholeness. It is not easy. It is not perfect. But it is real. And in its reality lies the deepest freedom, the freedom to live as a whole human being.